The House will come to order. The invocation today will be given by the Honorable Jason Morgan, State Representative from the 23rd District. Will members, staff, and guests in the gallery please rise? Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as ever you can. The origin of this quote is debated, but its message is clear. Do good, be good, help people. As we come together today, let us take a moment to appreciate and recognize those next to us, those across the aisle, and those we represent. We were sent here with a shared purpose, to serve the people of Michigan, to carry the voices of the individuals and families in each and every community across every part of our state, to help make their lives better, to ensure opportunity for all, and to ensure that we are building a strong future for the generations who follow us. Lastly, let us serve our communities with an eye toward those who have the least and struggle the most. Only then can we say that we have done the most good for the most people in all the ways that we can. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Clerk will open the board for the purpose of taking attendance. The board is now open. Members may check in at their desks.
WWTV Channels 9 and 10 News Cadillac has permission to videotape during today's session. If I could have the members' attention for the purposes of a special announcement, the chair recognizes the Democratic Caucus Chair, Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Democratic Caucus call, third floor. Democratic Caucus call, third floor.
Democratic members, the caucus has been called. WWMT Channel 3 Kalamazoo has permission to videotape during today's session. Michigan Public Radio has permission to photograph during today's session.
Members, please check in at your desks. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Move to excuse all absent members.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will close the board, tally, display, and announce today's attendance.
Madam Speaker, a quorum of the House is present. There are no members absent with prior excuse.
Will members, staff, and guests in the gallery please rise and join me now in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Speaker recognizes Representative Green.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today I would like to introduce a special guest. I have a student job shadow, Brianna Albers from Richmond High School visiting, and she will be on the floor with me today.
Members, please join me in welcoming Brianna to the floor of the Michigan House of Representatives. The House will stand at ease at the call of the chair.
The House will come to order. The House will proceed to reports of standing committees.
Committee on Education, Representative Kolajar, Chair, reported House Bill 4820 with recommendation that Substitute H1 be adopted and that the bill then pass.
Bills referred to the order of second reading of bills.
Committee on Education, Representative Kolajar, Chair, referred House Bill 4319 to the Committee on Higher Education.
Bills referred to the order of second reading of bills.
Committee on Education, Representative Kolajar, Chair, referred House Bill 4816 to the Committee on Higher Education.
Bills referred to the order of second reading of bills.
Committee on Education, Representative Kolajar, Chair, reported Senate Bill 359 without amendment with recommendation that the bill pass.
Bills referred to the order of second reading of bills. The House will stand at ease.
Members, we're going to start enforcing Rule 32. Please find your way to your seats. Members, please find your way to your seats. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm going to see the order of second reading of bills. Take up House Bill 4820.
Without objection, so ordered, the clerk will read.
House Bill 4820, introduced by Representative Skaggs, a bill to amend the revised school code. People of the State of Michigan enact.
The bill will be considered read for a second time by its title. Are there amendments? There are. The clerk will read.
The Committee on Education, Representative Colzar, Chair, recommends the adoption of Substitute H1.
The question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. The clerk will open the board. The amendment is adopted. Are there further amendments? There being no further amendments, the question for the House is advancing the bill to the order of third reading. Hearing no objection, the bill is on third reading. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Committee on order of second reading of bills. I'm going to take up Senate Bill 359.
Without objection, so ordered, the clerk will read.
We don't have that bill. Senate Bill 359, a bill to amend the revised school code. People of the State of Michigan enact.
The bill will be considered read for a second time by its title. Are there amendments? There being no amendments, the question for the House is advancing the bill to the order of third reading. Hearing no objection, the bill is on third reading. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to see the order of third reading of bills, take up House Bill 4820 and place it on its immediate passage.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
House Bill 4820, introduced by Representative Skaggs, a bill to amend the revised school code. People of the State of Michigan, enact.
Without objection, the bill be considered read for a third time by its title. Are there amendments? There being no amendments, the question for the House is the passage of the bill. A record roll call vote is required. All those in favor vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will open the board. Members, just a reminder, we are enforcing Rule 32. Please find your seat. The clerk will close the board, tally, display, and announce the vote.
Madam Speaker, on the question of final passage of House Bill 4820, there are 56 aye votes and 53 nay votes.
A majority of the members elected and serving having voted therefore, the bill is passed. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Move for immediate effect.
Majority Floor Leader moves to immediate effect. All those in favor will rise. Immediate effect is ordered. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
In the order of third reading bills, we'll take up Senate Bill 359 and place it on its immediate passage.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 359, a bill to amend the revised school code. People of the State of Michigan, enact.
Without objection, the bill will be considered read for a third time by its title. Are there amendments? There being no amendments, the question for the House is the passage of the bill. A record roll call vote is required. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will open the board. The clerk will close the board, tally, display, and announce the vote.
Speaker, on the question of final passage of Senate Bill 359, there are 56 aye votes and 53 nay votes.
Majority of the members elected and serving having voted therefore, the bill is passed. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Move for immediate effect.
Majority Floor Leader moves to immediate effect. All those in favor will rise. Immediate effect is ordered. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Continuing order of third reading bills, we'll take calendar item number 25, Senate Bill 289.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Calendar item number 25, Senate Bill 289, a bill to amend the Brownfield Redevelopment Financing Act. People of the State of Michigan, enact.
Without objection, the bill will be considered read for a third time by its title. Are there amendments? There are amendments. The clerk will read.
Representative Hoskins offers a floor substitute H4 identified as amendment number 1.
On third reading, amendments require support. Is there support? The clerk will open the board. There is support. The question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. The clerk will open the board. The amendment is adopted. Are there further amendments? There being no further amendments, the question for the House is the passage of the bill. A record roll call vote is required. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will open the board. Members, please vote at your desks. The clerk will close the board, tally, display, and announce the vote.
Madam Speaker, on the question of final passage of Senate Bill 289, there are 90 aye votes and 19 nay votes.
Majority of the members elected and serving having voted therefore, the bill is passed. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
For immediate effect.
The Majority Floor Leader moves to immediate effect. All those in favor will rise. Immediate effect is ordered. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Seeking order of third reading bills, moving up Senate Bill calendar item number 19, Senate Bill 35.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Calendar item number 19, Senate Bill 35, a bill to amend the Social Welfare Act. People of the State of Michigan enact.
Without objection, the bill will be considered read for a third time by its title. Are there amendments? There are no amendments. Speaker recognizes Representative Steele.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, today I stand before you to address a matter of significant importance, the proposal to eliminate the asset test for the Food Assistance Program. While it may seem like a noble idea on the surface, I firmly believe that such a decision would be detrimental to the very individuals and the community it aims to assist. First and foremost, the asset test serves as a critical safeguard against potential abuse and misuse of the Food Assistance Program. By requiring applicants to meet specific criteria related to their assets, we ensure that those who are truly in need of assistance actually receive it, while preventing exploitation of those who may have substantial resources but are still seeking government aid. The asset test acts as a tool to maintain the integrity and the accountability of the program, ensuring that it serves its intended purpose of providing a safety net for those who are genuinely struggling. Eliminating the asset test would create a situation where individuals with significant financial resources could potentially access benefits intended for the most vulnerable among us. This not only undermines the principle of fairness and justice, but also diverts resources away from those who truly need them. By allowing individuals with substantial assets to qualify for food assistance, we risk depleting the limited funds available, leaving fewer resources for those who are genuinely living in poverty and struggling to put food on their table. Moreover, eliminating the asset test sends a message that hard work, responsibility, and careful financial planning are not valued or rewarded. The asset test provides an incentive for individuals to save and invest wisely, promoting self-sufficiency and resilience. By removing this test, we inadvertently discourage responsible behavior and financial prudence, creating a culture of dependency on government assistance rather than fostering individual empowerment and self-reliance. We should be encouraging individuals to build a better future for themselves and their families through hard work and personal responsibility, not perpetuating a cycle of dependence. We must remember that every dollar allocated to a person who does not genuinely need assistance is a dollar that could have been invested in other crucial areas such as education, healthcare, or infrastructure like our roads. It is our duty to ensure that taxpayer dollars are spent judiciously and efficiently, benefiting those who are truly requiring assistance. In conclusion, The asset test is a vital component of the food assistance program that maintains its integrity, ensures accountability, and preserves resources for those who are truly in need. Eliminating this test would compromise the program's effectiveness, undermine the principles of fairness and justice, discourage responsible behavior, and place an excessive burden on us, the taxpayers. Let us strive for a society that supports those who need it the most while promoting personal responsibility and fostering independence. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Speaker recognizes Representative DeBoyer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, hardworking taxpayers and the dollars that they turn into this government are sacred. We point the full power of our government at a taxpayer and we say to them, you either pay or we're going to penalize you. And because of that such dramatic behavior, I think we have a responsibility with those dollars. I think we have a responsibility to make sure that those dollars are allocated appropriately, allocated efficiently, and allocated for the actual intent that they should be. And as much as this program is an extremely valuable program, I think we're losing our way on this. This bill potentially would allow millionaires, and yes, I mean it when I say that, would allow millionaires to qualify because of the way the test would be applied for qualification. If the goal here is to help those in need, I think one of the first things we have to do is make sure that these dollars are going to people who are actually in need. Making sure that none of that money goes anywhere other than there. This will make, with this change, this will make a permanent membership to this program rather than assisting individuals and to help them get back on their feet and to allow them to get back into the community, get back into the giving in a community. To me, this is a great example of a failure of the public trust. The people trust us and ask us and expect us to run an efficient, effective government. That's why I came to Lansing, to represent the people in my district, to run an efficient, effective government. And I'm going to continue to fight for that, but what this plan is wasteful, and it opens the door to abuse, and I think that's directly contrary to the intent of the program. I can't support this. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The question for the House is the passage of the bill. A record roll call vote is required. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will open the board. The clerk will close the board, tally, display, and announce the vote.
Madam Speaker, on the question of final passage, Senate Bill 3-5, there are 56 aye votes and 53 nay votes.
Majority of members elected and serving having voted therefore, the bill is passed. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
For immediate effect.
Majority Floor Leader moves to immediate effect. All those in favor will rise. Immediate effect is ordered. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
In the order of third reading bills, we'll take up count item number 26, House Bill 4474.
Without objection so ordered, the clerk will read.
Calendar item number 26, House Bill 4474, a bill to amend the Michigan Penal Code, People of the State of Michigan, enact.
Without objection, the bill be considered read for a third time by its title. Are there amendments? There are amendments. The clerk will read.
Representative Arbet offers a floor substitute H3 identified as amendment number 1.
On third reading, amendments require support. Is there support? The clerk will open the board. There is support. The question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. The clerk will open the board. The amendment is adopted. Are there further amendments? There are no further amendments. Speaker recognizes Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish to speak to both bills, House Bills 4474 and 4475.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you. The wording or the version of these bills are extremely troublesome because they are poorly defined, vague, and unconstitutional. Be it noted that none of us want violation of bodies, property, assault, or robbery of any kind, and we stand together against all current crimes and anything that would violate freedoms. The version of these bills, though, is, like I said, extremely troublesome. Under these versions, if a speaker utters words and the hearer agrees to those words or feels educated from those words, there's no crime. But if the hearer of those same words in a different setting feels intimidated, it's a felony. In the USA, our laws make it clear what conduct is a crime prior to the act. This legislation allows police or prosecutors to decide what is a crime after the act or after the speech is spoken. Content-based speech regulation violates the U.S. Constitution, which everyone in this chamber swore to uphold, and for these reasons, I urge a no vote on these two bills. Thank you.
Speaker recognizes Representative Devendorf.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Permission to speak to the entire package?
Without objection, so ordered.
I rise today to support the hate crimes and institutional desecration package. And today, I have a special note that my comments today are from both myself and my former Victim Services Director.
Representative, I'm sorry, you cannot use props during your speech.
Okay.
Speaker recognizes Representative Devendorf.
Nina Simone once said, "I'll tell you what freedom is to me, no fear." Madam Speaker, only 7.2% of Americans identify as LGBTQIA, and yet, according to the Williams Institute, about 9% of all violent victimizations against LGBT people are hate crimes, compared to 4% of violent victimizations against non-LGBT people. LGBT people experience 5.4 violent hate crimes specifically motivated by sexual orientation and gender identity per 1,000 people, compared to 0.2 victimizations per 1,000 people for non-LGBT people, with transgender and gender nonconforming people experiencing the most violent cases, and trans women of color disproportionately represented among hate crimes and bias incident cases. While Executive Director and Policy Director at Equality Michigan, a statewide LGBTQ advocacy organization that does public education, public policy, advocacy, and Victim Services Director Eve led our hate crimes response effort, and the whole team weathered each tragedy together. Our efforts to respond to and report hate crimes while supporting victims and our larger LGBTQ community too often left us with hands tied and justice out of reach. Despite the LGBTQIA+ communities being frequent victims of the most horrific violent crimes in our state, our lives and deaths were too often not valued enough to be properly investigated, while legal inconsistencies and narrow criteria for qualifying a crime as a hate crime kept charges from being filed in the majority of cases. It was clear from loss after loss and the lack of action that followed that the law must reflect a recognition that all have value and a right to exist. It was also clear that that very essential recognition was lacking. When we refuse to take seriously the threats to our neighbors and opt out of protecting all communities based on our own judgment of who deserves safety, we perpetuate the dehumanization of our most vulnerable friends and neighbors and make violence even more likely. In recent years, bias-motivated threats and actual violence have increased for our Black and brown residents, our places of worship and religious practitioners, and for our LGBTQIA+ community. The threat to our most vulnerable communities has correlated with a rise in unapologetic exclusion and hate speech. Just last week, the Lansing area, still reeling from the recent mass shooting at Michigan State University, was the target of another plan to take innocent lives when a plot to carry out a mass shooting at an East Lansing synagogue was thwarted by law enforcement. This legislation will not instantly stop the ever-growing rise of hate crimes against our most vulnerable communities, but it will, finally, establish a standard for the safety and respect overdue to those Michiganders dehumanized, alienated, and targeted for violence in our neighborhoods, institutions, places of worship, and our schools. With the passage of this legislation, we declare safety, dignity, and freedom from harassment as a bare minimum, regardless of, and not despite, who we are, who we love, or how we worship. And we do so while implementing best practices that show compassion and offer opportunity for reform for those who have let ignorance, lack of empathy, and fear direct their actions. All crimes are not created equal, but according to the Constitution, people are. Hate crimes are committed with the intent to harm and intimidate entire communities, as well as the individual victim, because the victim is a representation of the community. It isn't an assault. It's an assault with a broad message, an enhanced crime. The targets of hate violence are usually the most underrepresented in marginalized communities. In a free society, you are free to love, dislike, and even hate whoever you want. But you are not free to violate another's liberty because of it, and you are certainly not free from the consequences of your actions if you do. Our social contract says that you have to, at bare minimum, respect that we're all created equal. Indeed, bias and hate are different animals, and today we assert that they will not be tolerated and must be tamed for the good of all. Hate can't dominate when love, learning, acceptance, and accountability are empowered to lead the way. I will vote yes today for the many victims we worked for but could not protect. Ashton O'Hara and Amber Monroe, murders occurring just a few weeks apart near Palmer Park. Amber was shot and murdered. Ashton was stabbed and pushed out of a car and then repeatedly run over. Calvin Lipscomb, who was shot, burned, and then dumped in a trash bin. Shelley Hilliard, only 19, dressed up in a beautiful silver dress to meet a date and was instead met by two strange men who murdered her, dismembered her body, scattered pieces of her body, and then burned her torso. The taxi driver heard her cries as they drove away. Burning is not an uncommon element to an anti-LGBTQ hate crime, as the motivation behind it isn't personal to the victim, but instead a visceral reaction to wishing an entire community didn't exist. And finally, after leaving Equality Michigan, I worked on the murder of Lansing gay man Kevin Worth. Kevin's crime initially didn't receive the dignity of being recognized as a hate crime, even though the victim and assailant were strangers, and Kevin was stabbed 22 times. He was left dead in his home while the assailant lounged in his living room all night and then took a shower prior to leaving. Enough. Madam Speaker, I know what freedom is, even while we do not yet know freedom. It is not survival, nor resilience, nor courage. Freedom is, as Nina said, no fear. Please vote yes for this important legislation.
Speaker recognizes Representative Fink.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Oh, the floor leader says no. Okay. Thank you, Madam Speaker and Mr. Floor Leader. The purpose of this legislation is presumably to reduce animosity between our citizens, and I consider that a goal worth pursuing. It would be better for all of us if we were more able to treat all of our fellow citizens as our equals and not divide our communities. But if we're going to pursue that goal together, we have to do so in a way that will actually generate cohesion and respects the Constitution's guardrails, which protect even unpopular ideas and speech from government regulation. While I appreciate that this bill acknowledges that if it violates the Constitution, then it is not enforceable, key phrases such as association or affiliation and online property are not defined. Neither is legitimate purpose. What does that mean? Does it mean that harassment is okay if it is for a commercial purpose rather than an ideological one?
If a person's speech, which is considered to be intimidating, is motivated by an affinity for a different protected class, does that make it legitimate? I doubt that's the intention here, but don't we owe it to our citizens to be clear about that? Another issue is that when we are supposedly in an era when criminal penalties are based on data rather than emotion or pure retribution, we're looking at instituting 5-year felonies for certain patterns of speech. We are all, for instance, against school bullying, but do we think if one high school student intimidates another, it should be up to a 5-year felony? The upshot here is that we are setting our citizens' disagreements up to become criminal prosecutions. If this legislation were to be limited to clearly defined, concrete actions that a person might take to harm another, I could take a different view. For example, when I was a child, I rode with my dad, who was an officer at the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Department, to the scene of a cross burning a little outside of Ypsilanti. The natural question as a 9 or 10-year-old was, "What is a cross burning, Dad?" And I remembered the feeling in the pit of my stomach when he told me what it was, who would do such a thing, and why they would do it. And instantly an image appeared in my mind that someone could do this to our neighbors and beloved friends just because of their skin color. And I was proud of my dad and his colleagues for fighting back against that form of terrorizing trespass. And as I understand it, our current ethnic intimidation prohibition is narrowly focused on actions like cross-burning and other heinous actions which endanger whole communities. And that the current act carefully avoids the kind of overbreath that concerns me here. If this bill were similarly narrowly tailored, we might be having a different conversation, but as it is written, the risk that disfavored opinions will become criminal under this legislation is too severe, and I must oppose it. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Speaker recognizes Representative Puri.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Permission to speak to the entire package.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you. I want to thank my colleagues from the 20th District, the 82nd District, and others for their partnership and work on this package. And I stand before you today not just as a representative, but as a survivor of a hate crime that shook the very foundation of my community. Many of you have heard my story that the reason I even ran for office in the first place was following a senseless act of violence in which a supremacist opened fire on my family's former place of worship in the name of hate, ignorance, Islamophobia, killing 6 souls at the Oak Creek Sikh Gurdwara. Now, it's my personal journey that's brought me to this moment, igniting a passion with me to advocate for change, to protect all of our communities, and to ensure that no one else experiences the pain and suffering that my community knows all too well. But we have to stop being reactive in our response to these tragedies and trying to be more proactive in finding ways to stop these acts of violence before they happen. And these bills help do just that. Now, unfortunately, my personal story does not stand alone. It echoes the stories of countless others who have suffered from the same seeds of prejudice, discrimination, and intolerance. Today, as we stand on the precipice of progress, we as a body can further condemn hate crimes and also provide meaningful protection for all those who may have been targeted because of who they are, whom they love, or what they believe. Now, oftentimes I'm asked why these crimes deserve special treatment, because it's already a crime to hurt someone, I'm told. But that is because hate crimes are very different. Hate crimes are committed to send a message. And after one of these heinous acts of violence, a person is left hurt, a family is left broken, and a community is left picking up the pieces. Now, for years, victims and communities encompass psychological and emotional harm, threatening the very fabric of our society. Now, these crimes are unique because with other crimes, the motive may not always be clear. But with hate crimes, the motive is extremely clear. It is to send a message that you do not belong here. Now, others may argue that these bills infringe on the freedom of speech, but let us be clear. We are not stifling differing opinions or beliefs. We are drawing a very clear line between the exercise of free expression and the existence of hate crimes. Now, no one is silencing dissent. We are standing up against violence, intimidation, and the dehumanization of our fellow citizens. No, I'm not naive. I know that no one bill will rid our society of hate and bigotry. But many hate crimes in our state are not prosecuted due to outdated language, and these bills help fix that. Even as hate crime numbers and statistics have skyrocketed in the last few years, we know that an overwhelming majority of hate crimes go unreported. Now, these bills will give our state the tools to respond with a heavy hand that these acts of violence deserve. And I often say that the rich cultural, religious, and ethnic diversity of Michiganders all over our state is what makes our state so great. And these bills help to protect our state's greatest asset, which is our people. Hate is bad for business. Hate has no home here. And in Michigan, hate won't win. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Speaker recognizes Representative Grant.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Permission to speak to the entire package.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of this package and provide support on this crucial matter. My bill, HB 4475, is a companion bill to Rep. Arbit's and seeks to strengthen our laws against hate crimes. It is essential that we recognize the significance of addressing hate crimes, not just as isolated incidents, but as acts that threaten the very fabric of our communities. It is imperative that we strengthen our legal framework and send a clear message that our state is committed to protecting the rights and dignity of every individual, regardless of who they love, who they worship, what they look like, where they come from, or what abilities they have. Moreover, hate crime laws serve as a means of empowering victims and fostering trust within our communities by validating the experiences that they have and demonstrating our commitment to their protection. This encourages individuals to come forward, report incidents, and actively participate in the pursuit of justice. These bills ensure that people who commit these heinous acts will be brought to justice more quickly and more effectively. In 2021, African Americans were the target of 43% of all reported hate crimes or bias incidents in Michigan. My district, which is incredibly diverse, is a place where we see acts where people do not even feel safe to report what they have experienced. And so they hold that and they carry that. And in some way, it is substantiated that maybe this is just what life is. Maybe this is what you deserve. These bills say that that is not true, that we take these crimes seriously, and that you do not have to be a victim of something like this. I am honored to stand with Rep. Arbit and Rep. Pori in leading on legislation that seeks to protect my constituents, my community, my family, and so many others across Michigan. I urge each member of this esteemed body to consider the far-reaching impact that hate crime legislation can have on the well-being and security of our state. I urge a yes vote. Thank you.
Speaker recognizes Representative Arbit.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Permission to speak to the entire package?
Without objection, so ordered.
Madam Speaker, hate violence is different from other kinds of violence because it is terroristic in nature. There is never just one victim of a hate crime. An entire community is victimized too. Hate crimes tell all those who share a victim's identity, people like you aren't welcome. People like you don't belong. People like you aren't safe. That's why, amidst rising hate crimes in the state of Michigan, we're rising up too to fight it. Today is a day that I have dreamt about for so long, because today we can finally begin to say that we are transforming the state of Michigan from a national laggard to a national leader on hate crimes prevention, intervention, and response. At a very fundamental level, enacting this legislation is why I am here. Taking on hate and extremism is one of the biggest reasons I decided to run for this office. It is what drew me into politics in the first place. On October 27th, 2018, I received a news alert on my iPhone. 11 Jews killed at a mass shooting at a synagogue in Pittsburgh, in what was the deadliest attack on the Jewish community in American history. In response, I founded the Michigan Democratic Jewish Caucus, helping to lead the fight against anti-Semitism, hate, and extremism in this state. Later, I served as Director of Communications at the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office, where I observed how difficult it can be to decide whether to issue charges under the Ethnic Intimidation Act. When I decided to run for the House, I promised the people of West Bloomfield, Commerce, and the Lakes that if they elected me, I would move heaven and earth to combat rising hate violence in the state of Michigan. I was told by members of the political class that making this my central campaign issue was dumb, because hate crimes were not a kitchen table issue, and that voters wouldn't care. I was told that if I didn't change course, I would likely lose my primary. Well, Madam Speaker, I didn't lose. I knew my community, and I knew my own heart, too. I knew that as a proud Jew and a gay man, I will never sit idly by and watch as the communities I am part of face rising hate violence. I knew that I will never sit idly by and watch any community in this state face rising hate violence. The fact is, I am sick of walking past police cars and bomb-sniffing dogs outside my synagogue. I'm sick of checking for hiding spots at the gay bar should a gunman open fire. I'm sick of my Chaldean constituents being murdered at their places of business. I'm sick of reading headlines about mosques, churches, and gurdwaras being vandalized and desecrated. I am sick of my Black and Asian neighbors being forced to have the talk with their kids about neighborhoods and cities they cannot go to, about how they have to navigate a world that is too often racist, where one wrong step could result in vicious, hate-filled violence. Michigan can be so much better, and it's about time that we were. In 1982, 2 auto workers who blamed Japan for turmoil in Michigan's auto industry murdered Vincent Chin, a Chinese-American man, at a bar in Highland Park. Vincent Chin's brutal murder sparked a nationwide movement to enact state hate crime laws. In 1988, the legislature passed what is known as the Ethnic Intimidation Act, but it hasn't been amended even once since its passage, 7 years before I was even born. In the 35 years since, Michigan has seen an unabated rise in hate crimes with no corresponding legislative action to address it. Reported hate crimes and bias incidents have increased almost every single year in the past decade, while Michigan's legal architecture to address it remains stuck in 1988. The result is Michigan racking up the 5th most hate crimes of any state in the country, while maintaining one of the weakest, inadequate, and toothless hate crime laws of any state in the country. The fact that gay Michiganders, Michiganders with disabilities, and seniors are still unprotected from hate crimes under Michigan law is egregious and intolerable. The Michigan Hate Crime Act, introduced alongside my colleague from the 82nd District, rectifies this wrong. In addition to strengthening penalties for the most severe hate crimes, my bill begins to position Michigan as a national leader in restorative justice for hate crimes. Madam Speaker, it is vital to understand that as my bill protects gay people, it also protects straight people. As it protects Jews, it protects Christians. As it protects Black people, it protects white people. As it protects women, it protects men. This is intentional. Although racial, ethnic, religious, and sexual minority groups are far and away the most common targets of hate violence, no Michigander should ever feel unsafe or threatened because of who they are or the community they belong to. The second part of the package, the Institutional Desecration Act, introduced alongside my colleague from Canton, makes it a hate crime to deface, destroy, or vandalize houses of worship or other communal property. Hate crimes targeting faith-based institutions and other types of communal property have skyrocketed in Michigan over the past decade, as we saw in the Rochester Hills Mosque that was vandalized in 2021, and just last month at a Royal Oak synagogue that was vandalized with a swastika 4 days after we introduced these bills. It is time for Michigan to address these crimes by joining the 35 other states with a similar statute on the books. Madam Speaker, I also want to be very crystal clear about what this bill does not do. This bill does not infringe on anyone's First Amendment rights. While free speech, including hate speech, is a protected right, no one has a constitutional right to threaten or commit a criminal act against another person because they don't like how they look, how they speak, how they worship, or who they love. In fact, the Supreme Court upheld the constitutionality of anti-hate crime laws since its landmark Wisconsin v. Mitchell decision in 1993. So yes, Madam Speaker, this legislation is vital, but it is by no means a panacea. Hate is a social ill that we need to tackle as such, and this legislation is no substitute for that work. Rooting out hate and extremism from our society requires not just a whole-of-government effort, but a whole-of-society effort, too. It is on each of us, individually and collectively, to cultivate spaces among ourselves, our friends, our neighbors, our colleagues, our children, where hate has no purchase. Because no matter how much I wish it were otherwise, we cannot pass a bill that gets rid of anti-Semitism or anti-Black racism or anti-Asian racism or homophobia or Islamophobia. What we can do is tackle hate when it dovetails with a criminal act. What we can do is improve Michigan's tools to respond, pursue justice and accountability, and create opportunities to deter hate violence. That is what these bills achieve. Recently, I learned that the original sponsor of the Ethnic Intimidation Act in 1987 was Representative David Honigman, a Republican from West Bloomfield. In 2012, Representative Lisa Brown, a Democrat from West Bloomfield, introduced legislation to amend the law, but it never got a hearing. I had no idea about this history until a few months ago. To learn that I am building on a legacy of legislators from my community, leading the fight against hate crimes makes today even more meaningful. It is bashert, or how we Jews would say, meant to be. I also want to thank our extraordinary Attorney General, Dana Nessel, for her partnership in developing this legislation. I and the people of this state owe her a debt of gratitude. Madam Speaker, I will continue with a final thought. Hate crimes are always committed to send a message. Now is our chance to send an even stronger message that we will not tolerate hate crimes anywhere in the state of Michigan, and that Michigan's justice system will treat hate crimes with the seriousness and severity that they are due. And for every Michigander who has ever been threatened, harmed, or assaulted because of who you are, this legislation is for you. We will not let you down. Madam Speaker, I implore my colleagues across this House to vote yes on the Michigan Hate Crime Act and the Institutional Desecration Act to finally protect all Michiganders from hate.
The question before the House is the passage of the bill. A record roll call vote is required. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will open the board. Clerk will close the board, tally, display, and announce the vote.
Madam Speaker, on the question of final passage of House Bill 4474, there are 59 aye votes and 50 nay votes.
Majority of members elected and serving having voted therefore, the bill is passed. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Move for immediate effect.
Majority Floor Leader moves to immediate effect. All those in favor will rise. Immediate effect is ordered. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Continuing order of third reading bills, may count item number 27, House Bill 4475.
Without objection so ordered, the clerk will read.
Calendar item number 27, House Bill 4475, introduced by Representative Grant, a bill to amend the Code of Criminal Procedure, People of the State of Michigan, enact.
Without objection, the bill will be considered read for a third time by its title. Are there amendments? There are amendments. The clerk will read.
Representative Grant offers a floor substitute H2, identified as Amendment number 1.
On third reading, amendments require support. Is there support? The clerk will open the board. There is support. Question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. The clerk will open the board. The amendment is adopted. Are there further amendments? There being no further amendments, the question before the House is the passage of the bill. A record roll call vote is required. All those in favor vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will open the board. The clerk will close the board, tally, display, and announce the vote.
Madam Speaker, on the question of final passage of House Bill 4475, there are 59 aye votes and 50 nay votes.
Majority of members elected and serving having voted therefore, the bill is passed. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Move for immediate effect.
Majority Floor Leader moves to immediate effect. All those in favor will rise. Immediate effect is ordered. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
In order of third reading bills, would like count item number 28, House Bill 4476.
Without objection, so ordered, the clerk will read.
Calendar item number 28, House Bill 4476, introduced by Representative Arbin. A bill to amend the Michigan Penal Code. People of the State of Michigan enact.
Without objection, the bill will be considered read for a third time by its title. Are there amendments? There being no amendments, the question before the House is the passage of the bill. A record roll call vote is required. All those in favor vote aye. Those opposed nay. The clerk will open the board. Clerk will close the board, tally, display, and announce the vote.
Madam Speaker, on the question of final pass of House Bill 4476, there are 83 aye votes and 26 nay votes.
Majority of the members elected and serving having voted therefore, the bill is passed. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Move for immediate effect.
Majority Floor Leader moves to immediate effect. All those in favor will rise. Immediate effect is ordered. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Continue in order of third reading bills, would like count item number 29, House Bill 4477.
Without objection, so ordered, the clerk will read.
Calendar item number 29, House Bill 4477, introduced by Representative Puri. A bill to amend the Code of Criminal Procedure. People of the State of Michigan enact.
Without objection, the bill will be considered read for a third time by its title. Are there amendments? There are amendments. The clerk will read.
Representative Puri offers the floor. Substitute H3, identified as Amendment number 1.
On third reading, amendments require support. Is there support? The clerk will open the board. There is support. The question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. The clerk will open the board. The amendment is adopted. Are there further amendments? There being no further amendments, the question for the House is the passage of the bill. A record roll call vote is required. All those in favor vote aye. Those opposed nay. The clerk will open the board. Clerk will close the board, tally, display, and announce the vote.
Madam Speaker, on the question of final passage of House Bill 4477, there are 82 aye votes and 27 nay votes.
Majority of members elected and serving having voted therefore, the bill is passed. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Move for immediate effect.
Majority Floor Leader moves to immediate effect. All those in favor will rise. Immediate effect is ordered. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Continue in order of third reading bills, would like count item number 14, House Bill 4354.
Without objection, so ordered, the clerk will read.
Calendar item number 14, House Bill 4354. A bill to amend an act to prohibit strikes by certain public employees. People of the State of Michigan enact.
Without objection, the bill will be considered read for a third time by its title. Are there amendments? There are amendments. The clerk will read.
Representative Aragona offers one amendment identified as Amendment number 1.
On third reading, amendments require support. If there's support, the clerk will open the board. There is not support. Are there further amendments? There are. The clerk will read.
Representative Aragona offers one amendment identified as amendment number 2.
On third reading, amendments require support. The clerk will open the board. There is not support. Are there further amendments? There are. The clerk will read.
Representative Fink offers one amendment identified as amendment number 3.
On third reading, amendments require support. Is there support? The clerk will open the board. There is not support. Are there further amendments? There are. The clerk will read.
Representative Bierlein offers one amendment identified as amendment number 4.
On third reading, amendments require support. Is there support? The clerk will open the board. There is not support. Are there further amendments? There are. The clerk will read.
Representative Beeler offers one amendment identified as amendment number 5.
On third reading, amendments require support. Is there support? The clerk will open the board. There is not support. Are there further amendments? There are. The clerk will read.
Representative Coons offers one amendment identified as amendment number 6.
On third reading, amendments require support. Is there support? The clerk will open the board. There is not support. Are there further amendments? There are. The clerk will read.
Representative Fink offers one amendment identified as amendment number 7.
On third reading, amendments require support. Is there support? The clerk will open the board. There is not support. Are there further amendments? There are. The clerk will read.
Representative Beeler offers one amendment identified as amendment number 8.
On third reading, amendments require support. Is there support? The clerk will open the board. There is not support. Are there further amendments? There are. The clerk will read.
Representative Coons offers one amendment identified as amendment number 9.
On third reading, amendments require support. Is there support? The clerk will open the board. There is not support. Are there further amendments? There are no further amendments. Members, we have colleagues wishing to address the body. Please quiet down and give them your attention. Speaker recognizes Representative Coons.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I request permission to speak to the entire package.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you, Madam. These bills do not help students. These bills do not help young teachers. These bills do help put outside groups in charge of our schools. Now, I am not anti-union, but I am pro-student. And anyone that believes students' priorities should be paramount cannot support these bills. Prior to these subjects being put in place, districts overwhelmingly had seniority-based provisions for placement, layoff, and recall decisions. I dream of a day when the supporters of these bills have the fortitude to state this will punish young teachers. Districts need the ability to place teachers where our students and teachers have the best opportunity to succeed. Seniority-based placement decisions will leave our newest educators pink-slipped or out of a job due to lack of certification to fill the remaining open positions. This will push our next generation of educators out of the profession and exacerbate the teacher shortage. Seniority-based decisions adversely affect our most vulnerable learners. Under seniority-based staffing methods, special education students, English language learners, and at-risk students, both academically and disciplinary, are oftentimes in the classrooms that are assigned to our newest, least experienced teachers who are not yet equipped to be successful in these situations. Because they are the most difficult jobs, we need the best educators in those tough positions. An evaluation should accurately reflect how well teachers connect with students and present learning material to their classrooms. Telling them the exact time and material they are being evaluated on will not show how well they work with our kids on a daily basis. I could spend the afternoon sharing examples of how these bills would be bad for our students. Madam Speaker, I doubt you would appreciate that use of our time. Let me close with a simple statement. Put our students first and vote no on these terrible bills. Thank you.
Speaker recognizes Representative Weiss.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to start by addressing what this bill does. My bill, House Bill 4354, would restore the right of teachers and school staff to collectively bargain on several subjects, including placement. Now, prior to 2011, the legislative majority at the time, in 2011, the legislative majority at the time passed laws prohibiting teachers and their union representatives from even discussing these subjects at the bargaining table. Teachers held these rights for 40 years prior to 2011, during a time when education was at its finest here in Michigan. Repealing these rights has had a detrimental effect on our education system, and I believe has significantly contributed to the teacher shortage. Madam Speaker, this issue is deeply personal to me. It is honestly why I am here. Back in October 2019, I received a call from a member of the legislature asking me if I'd be interested in running for an open house seat. I was flattered, but I told him I was good. I was doing what I had always wanted to do. I was teaching high school social studies. My classes were going great. I loved my school. I had built strong relationships in my classroom. And I had no interest in leaving my job. And honestly, working in the minority in the legislature really didn't sound like a good time to me. So I politely declined. About a week later, I was covering for a class during my prep period, the last hour of the day on a Friday. My principal came in and asked me to come out to the hallway and told me that because we had experienced declining enrollment in our building, we were losing an English teacher, and as a result, my schedule would change on Monday. I'd be teaching a new subject that I had never taught, a new grade level of students that I had never taught, and I had the weekend to prepare. Now, obviously, that was awful for me. But what really got me was when several students came to me when they heard the news in tears because their schedules had changed in late October, some losing their honors English class because we no longer had a teacher to teach it, and others losing elective classes that they loved and cared about, and all of them upset at the sudden, abrupt schedule change that affected them, again, in late October. I was furious that such a decision could be made so quickly without consideration of its impact on myself, my colleagues, and most importantly, on our students. I went to my union, I went to the school board, but I quickly found out that because placement is a prohibited subject of bargaining, it was entirely at the discretion of administration. I had no voice, my students had no voice. I called the senator back and told them that I had changed my mind. I ran for this seat because I wanted to make sure that those here in Lansing making decisions on education policy understood the impacts of those decisions at the classroom level. If my experience were unique, I might not feel so passionately about this issue. But watching 2 weeks of testimony in the House Labor Committee from teachers across the state on this bill affirmed how critical this issue is and how critical it is that we restore these rights. There are those who say that this is bad for kids, that restoring the rights of teachers to collectively bargain is bad for kids. I want to be clear. What is happening right now is bad for kids. This isn't working, and it hasn't been working for the past 11, 12 years. When you bring teachers, school staff, and school administrators together at a bargaining table to make decisions about what will work best at their local level for their districts, that is how you do what is best for kids. And to do that, I urge a yes vote on this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The question before the House is the passage of the bill. A record roll call vote is required. All those in favor vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will open the board. Clerk will close the board, tally, display, and announce the vote.
Madam Speaker, on the question of final passage of House Bill 4354, there are 56 aye votes and 53 nay votes.
Majority of members elected and serving having voted therefore, the bill is passed. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Move for immediate effect.
Majority Floor Leader moves to immediate effect. All those in favor will rise. Immediate effect is ordered. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Continuing order of third reading bills, may count item number 16, House Bill 4356.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Calendar item number 16, House Bill 4356, introduced by Representative Brenda Carter, a bill to amend an act prohibit strikes by certain public employees. People of the State of Michigan, enact.
Without objection, the bill will be considered read for a third time by its title. Are there amendments? There are no amendments. Speaker recognizes Representative Carter.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I stand in support of House Bill 4356. This bill restores the outsourcing of non-instructional services and the right to keep support staff positions local as a subject of bargaining. When talking about labor issues, we absolutely cannot forget to include the right of school employees and educational support staff professionals. This includes indispensable workers who clean, maintain, and secure our buildings, the office staff who ensures our schools run smoothly, the bus drivers who safely transport our students to and from school, the food service workers who prepare meals to keep our kids fed so they can focus on learning, and the paraprofessionals who support our most vulnerable students. These folks' job could disappear with the stroke of a pen and nothing could be done about it. How unfair is that? Working people are the backbone of our economy, and strengthening our labor laws to expand workers' rights is something Michiganders wholeheartedly support, regardless of party affiliation. When Michigan voters elected pro-worker majorities in the legislature last November, they said loud and clear that they want Michigan to be a workers' rights state. As the home of modern American labor movement, we know that unions built Michigan and helped grow our middle class. For all the hard workers in Michigan, I stand in support of this bill. Madam Speaker, I encourage a yes vote on this bill. Thank you.
The question before the House is the passage of the bill. A record roll call vote is required. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will open the board. Clerk will close the board, tally, display, and announce the vote.
Madam Speaker, on the question of final passage of House Bill 4356, there are 56 aye votes and 53 nay votes.
Majority of the members elected and serving having voted therefore, the bill is passed. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Move for immediate effect.
Majority Floor Leader moves to immediate effect. All those in favor will rise. Immediate effect is ordered. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Continuing order of third reading bills, move to calendar item number 17, House Bill 4357.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Calendar number 17, House Bill 4357, introduced by Representative Hood, a bill to amend the State School Aid Act of 1979. People of the State of Michigan, enact.
Without objection, the bill will be considered read for a third time by its title. Are there amendments? There are no amendments. The question for the House is the passage of the bill. A record roll call vote is required. All those in favor vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will open the board. Clerk will close the board, tally, display, and announce the vote.
Speaker, on the question of final pass of House Bill 4357, there are 56 aye votes and 53 nay votes.
Majority of the members elected and serving having voted therefore, the bill is passed. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Move for immediate effect.
Majority Floor Leader moves to immediate effect. All those in favor will rise. Immediate effect is ordered. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Continue order of third reading bills, but calendar item number 20, House Bill 4689.
Without objection so ordered, the clerk will read.
Calendar item number 20, House Bill 4689, introduced by Representative Hope, a bill to amend the Michigan Memorial Highway Act. People of the State of Michigan, enact.
Without objection, the bill will be considered read for a third time by its title. Are there amendments? There are. The clerk will read.
Representative Hope offers a floor substitute, H1, identified as amendment number 1.
On third reading, amendments require support. Is there support? Clerk will open the board. There is support. The question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. The clerk will open the board. The amendment is adopted. Are there further amendments? There are no further amendments. Speaker recognizes Representative Hope.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in support of my bill 4689, and the reason I am doing so is as an expression of gratitude. Law enforcement families and the families of first responders know that each time they say goodbye to their mom or dad, significant other or spouse, that it could be the last goodbye. I grew up in a corrections family, so I got a glimpse of that. Sadly, sometimes goodbye is the last goodbye. We owe a debt of gratitude to the officers and their families, and it's in that spirit that I tell you about Caleb Starr. He died serving all of us as a state trooper in July of 2020. While he was on patrol, his vehicle was struck by a very drunk driver traveling at 100 miles per hour. She was subsequently convicted of second-degree murder. So in July of 2020, 3 weeks after his accident, at 33 years of age, Trooper Starr passed away. He was struck down with less than 2 years on the job. Yes, as a 33-year-old, this was a second career for him, and by all accounts, it was a job that he loved. He was a special person, kind, professional, and really the embodiment of public service. He left behind his wife, Rachel, who's a civilian employee of the Michigan State Police, and 2 little girls. Those little girls will grow up near the site of this memorial, and I hope it makes them proud of their dad and their family for years to come. Please join me in making this small token of Michigan's appreciation for the service and sacrifice of Trooper Caleb Starr a reality. I urge you to support House Bill 4689.
The question for the House is the passage of the bill. A record roll call vote is required. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will open the board. The clerk will close the board, tally, display, and announce the vote.
Madam Speaker, on the question of final passage of House Bill 4689, there are 109 aye votes and 0 nay votes.
Majority of the members elected and serving having voted therefore, the bill is passed. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Move for immediate effect.
Majority Floor Leader moves to immediate effect. All those in favor will rise. Immediate effect is ordered. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Continue order of third reading bills will count item number 9, House Bill 4044.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Calendar item number 9, House Bill 4044, introduced by Representative Colazar. A bill to amend an act prohibits strikes by certain public employees. People of the State of Michigan, enact.
Without objection, the bill will be considered read for a third time by its title. Are there amendments? There are no amendments. Speaker recognizes Representative Colazar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House Bill 4044 will show public sector employees that we genuinely want them to work in an environment with fair negotiations that will bring out the best working conditions, and in the case of our educators, the best learning conditions for our students. Allow me to explain. Under Public Act 54 of 2011, when a contract expires, everything freezes. If healthcare costs go up 100% or go up, then 100% of that responsibility of those increases falls on the employee rather than the status quo of 80-20. If pay steps were previously negotiated, they're now frozen. What about retroactivity when things get better? Well, that's banned too. All this does is put all of the pressure on the employee to accept an offer. Any offer, regardless of how much it hurts them or the conditions in which they work. It also incentivizes an employer to slow walk a negotiation and use this law like a figurative sword to hang over their employees' heads. It is wrong. My bill, House Bill 4044, ends this ridiculous tilting of the table and reestablishes a fair, level playing field for negotiations. It got bipartisan support in committee, and it is my sincere hope that it gets bipartisan support here on the floor. I encourage a yes vote. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The question for the House is the passage of the bill. A record roll call vote is required. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will open the board. The clerk will close the board, tally, display, and announce the vote.
Speaker, on the question of final passage of House Bill 4044, there are 56 aye votes and 53 nay votes.
Majority of the members elected and serving having voted therefore, the bill is passed. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Immediate effect.
Is there a motion there? Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Technical difficulties, Madam Speaker. I move for immediate effect.
Majority Floor Leader moves to immediate effect. All those in favor will rise. Immediate effect is ordered. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Continuing the order of third reading bills, will count item number 10, House Bill 4233.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Calendar item number 10, House Bill 4233, introduced by Representative Churches. A bill to amend an act prohibits strikes by certain public employees. People of the State of Michigan, enact.
Without objection, the bill will be considered read for a third time by its title. Are there amendments? There are no amendments. Speaker recognizes Representative Aragona.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today to oppose House Bill 4233. House Bill 4233 mandates a direct withdrawal from teachers' paychecks for union dues, including PAC dollars used to oppose conservative candidates. However, I do not rise for myself, but I rise to give voice to one of my absolute favorite constituents. This constituent is a retired union representative for the American Federation of Teachers. She taught kids affected by blindness, as well as the learning disabled and emotionally impaired. She taught in East Detroit Public Schools. This constituent is my mom. I spoke with her about the salient points of this bill, and she asked why her very hard-earned dollars should be taken from her paycheck to oppose her only son from representing the middle of Macomb County. Madam Speaker, this bill automatically strips money from teachers to support union bosses. There are teachers that do not wish to support one political party over another. There are teachers that wish to separate from political movements altogether. Madam Speaker, I rise for them. Thank you.
Speaker recognizes Representative Paquette.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Under current law, the teachers' union is responsible for collecting their dues. They tried to collect dues from me starting in 2014 when I was teaching, even though I'd opted out of the union. For years, I was sent threatening letters telling me that they would take me to claims court for $680 that they said I owed because I opted out in a way that was not deemed valid. This bill would have enabled auto deductions from my paycheck, despite my small voice of opposition. One of my teacher colleagues who was hired at the same time as me spent nights crying because she couldn't afford to pay the dues. I personally did not want to give some of my $34,000 a year that I was making, where I was devoting my entire life to my classroom, building brand new community-oriented projects late into the night and coaching tennis on the side, while also being forced to pay $400 a month as an individual for my union-negotiated health care. I had to room with other teacher dudes that I worked with to make ends meet. I didn't want any of my meager paycheck going to an entity that gives 98% of political donations to a political party I don't agree with. And this is why I'm here. This is why I ran. Continuing my disagreement, I speak for many teachers who are pressured into joining the union or are given confusing information pertaining to opting out. There are many accounts as new educators are pressured to join and pay dues. Now this bill will enable automatic deductions from teacher paychecks. We want to work on our teacher shortage, not exasperate it. Let's work on how we can pay our teachers more, not deduct from what they have automatically. Union dues are a bigger chunk of a smaller paycheck, the smaller paychecks of those teachers who are newer to the profession, and this is debilitating, especially when a teacher could be doing an equal or even better job than a colleague who can be making almost triple what a newer teacher is making. This legislation is going to further discourage many talented individuals from joining or remaining in teacher ranks here in Michigan, and I respectfully urge a no vote. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Speaker recognizes Representative Churches.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Permission to speak to House Bill 4233.
So ordered.
Okay. This bill seeks to reinstate the ability of public school employees or public school employers to collect union dues, a crucial step to ensuring the stability and effectiveness of our education system. As representatives of the people, it's our duty to prioritize the needs and well-being of our constituents. In the case of public education, this means recognizing the vital role of our educators and the professionals that play in shaping the future of our society. Their dedication and hard work in cultivating the minds of our children should be acknowledged and supported. Historically, public school employers had the ability to collect union dues, providing a streamlined and efficient process of ensuring that educators could contribute to their chosen union. Today, confidence is offered to both police officers and firefighters to allow them to contribute to their chosen unions, but our legislature created legislation to take this convenience away from teachers and only teachers. As a union rep, I was a young teacher, so I got the job of going around building to building or classroom to classroom, and stopping into teachers who maybe they got a new debit card or their information wasn't correct. And I'd have to stop in after school and say, hey, it's me, but you need to give me your new information so that it can be updated in the system. After school, a lot of teachers are parents. They've got soccer games to go to, errands to run. I did too. My time could have been better spent, I don't know, at the dollar section in Target buying things for my classroom, writing learning targets on the board for the next day, arranging the pillows in my reading corner, or making brownies for my class because they filled up their marble jar. But instead, some days, I wasn't doing those extra things that I wanted to do for my students outside of the classroom, but I was doing things so that the voices of my fellow colleagues could be represented because of an obstacle that was created for teachers specifically. It is important to note that contributing to a union, as you may have heard, it is not required, it is voluntary. It's a choice of educators who recognize the value and benefits of collective bargaining. This legislation does not force or pressure anyone to join a union. It simply restores the ability of public school employers to collect dues for those who have willingly chosen to be part of a union. I compare this to participating in supplemental insurance, like AFLAC. It's not required, but if an employee seeks the benefits, they can pay to be represented and have their monthly fee taken out of their paycheck. Strong, effective unions benefit not only teachers, but also students and our community as a whole. This bill represents a significant step in restoring fair and supportive environments for our educators. By reinstating the ability of public school employers to collect union dues, we are enabling teachers to have a collective voice, empowering them to advocate for their rights and best interests of their working conditions and that of their students. This bill respects the time of educators, and it recognizes their essential role in shaping the future of our great state. I urge a yes vote on House Bill 4233. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The question before the House is the passage of the bill. A record roll call vote is required. All those in favor vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will open the board. The clerk will close the board, tally, display, and announce the vote.
Madam Speaker, on the question of final passage of House Bill 4233, there are 56 aye votes and 53 nay votes.
Majority of the members elected and serving having voted therefore, the bill is passed. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Move for immediate effect.
Majority Floor Leader moves to immediate effect. All those in favor will rise. Immediate effect is ordered. Speaker, members, we are going to be lifting Rule 32. You are free to move about. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm proceeding to order of second reading of bill to count item number 64, House Bill 4293.
Without objection so ordered, the clerk will read.
Calendar item number 64, House Bill 4293, introduced by Representative Hope. A bill to amend an act to prohibit the marriage of a person under 16 years of age and declare the marriage void. People of the state of Michigan, enact.
Members, I'm glad that you're all happy to be up, but if you can just quiet down the tiniest bit, I would really appreciate it. Thank you. The bill is considered read for a second time by its title. Are there amendments? There are. The clerk will read.
The Committee on Judiciary, Representative Breeden, Chair, recommends the adoption of substitute H1.
The question for the House is the adoption of the substitute. The clerk will open the board. The substitute is adopted. Are there further amendments? There are. The clerk will read.
Representative Hope offers a floor substitute H2, identified as amendment number 2.
The Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. The clerk will open the board. The amendment is adopted. Are there further amendments? There are. The clerk will read.
Representative Paquette offers one amendment identified as Amendment 2A.
Members, we have a colleague wishing to address the body. Please quiet down and give him your attention. Speaker recognizes Representative Paquette.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate the consideration of my amendment in the goal to protect children from decisions that can be detrimental and cause long-lasting harm. I agree wholeheartedly with the efforts of the bill sponsor in this legislation. This amendment tie bars HB 4293 to additional legislation that makes the prescribing of puberty blockers and gender reassignment surgeries for minors to be a felony. Children cannot consent to marriages or drugs and surgeries that render them sterile forever. I'm grateful for all who take up the cause to protect children from potentially lifelong consequences that can be avoided by our simple votes here in this honorable chamber. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. The clerk will open the board. The amendment is not adopted. Are there further amendments? There being no further amendments, the question for the House is advancing the bill to the order of third reading. Hearing no objection, the bill is on third reading. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Continuing order of second reading bills, we'll take count item number 65, House Bill 4294.
The bill, without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Count number 65, House Bill 4294, introduced by Representative Hope. A bill to amend an act establishing the minimum ages for contracting marriages. People of the State of Michigan, enact.
The bill will be considered read for a second time by its title. Are there amendments? There are. The clerk will read.
The Committee on Judiciary, Representative Breen Chair, recommends the adoption of Substitute H1.
The question for the House is the adoption of the substitute. The clerk will open the board. The substitute is adopted. Are there further amendments? There being no further amendments, the question for the House is advancing the bill to the order of third reading. Hearing no objection, the bill is on third reading. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that committees be given leave to meet during the balance of today's session.
Without objection, so ordered. Committees are given leave to meet. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Continue order, move to proceed to the order of second reading of bills. And take up count item number 66, House Bill 4295.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Count number 66, House Bill 4295, introduced by Representative Farhat. A bill to amend an act to provide for the issuance of marriage licenses and certificates without publicity in certain cases. People of the State of Michigan, enact.
The bill will be considered read for a second time by its title. Are there amendments? There being no amendments, the question for the House is advancing the bill to the order of third reading. Hearing no objection, the bill is on third reading. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
In order of second reading bills, we'll count item number 67, House Bill 4296.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Count number 67, House Bill 4296, introduced by Representative Kofia. A bill to amend an act to release legally married minors from parental control and to determine their marital rights and duties. People of the State of Michigan, enact.
The bill will be considered read for a second time by its title. Are there amendments? There are. The clerk will read.
The Committee on Judiciary, Representative Breen Chair, recommends the adoption of Substitute H1.
The question for the House is the adoption of the substitute. The clerk will open the board. The substitute is adopted. Are there further amendments? There being no further amendments, the question for the House is advancing the bill to the order of third reading. Here. There are further amendments. The clerk will read.
Representative Hope offers a floor substitute H2, identified as Amendment Number 2.
The question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. The clerk will open the board. The amendment is adopted. Are there further amendments? There being no further amendments, the question before the House is advancing the bill to the order of third reading. Hearing no objection, the bill is on third reading. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Continuing order of second reading bills, we have count item number 68, House Bill 4297.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Calendar number 68, House Bill 4297, introduced by Representative Edwards. A bill to amend the Estates and Protected Individuals Code. People of the State of Michigan, enact.
The bill will be considered read for a second time by its title. Are there amendments? There being no amendments, the question for the House is advancing the bill to the order of third reading. Hearing no objection, the bill is on third reading. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
In order of second reading bills, we'll take count item number 69, House Bill 4298.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Calendar Item 69, House Bill 4298, introduced by Representative Brixey, a bill to amend the Safe Families for Children Act. People of the State of Michigan enact.
The bill will be considered read for a second time by its title. Are there amendments? There being no amendments, the question before the House is advancing the bill to the order of third reading. Hearing no objection, the bill is on third reading. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Continuing order of second reading of bills will be count item number 70, House Bill 4299.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Calendar Number 70, House Bill 4299, introduced by Representative Grant, a bill to amend an act to define the rights and responsibilities of hotels and bed and breakfast with respect to renting or leasing hotel or bed and breakfast rooms to minors. People of the State of Michigan enact.
The bill will be considered read for a second time by its title. Are there amendments? There being no amendments, the question before the House is advancing the bill to the order of third reading. Hearing no objection, the bill is on third reading. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Continuing order of second reading of bills will take up count item number 71, House Bill 4300.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Calendar Number 71, House Bill 4300, introduced by Representative Hill, a bill to amend the Of Divorce Act. People of the State of Michigan enact.
The bill will be considered read for a second time by its title. Are there amendments? There being no amendments, the question before the House is advancing the bill to the order of third reading. Hearing no objection, the bill is on third reading. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Continuing order of second reading of bills will be count item number 72, House Bill 4301.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Calendar Number 72, House Bill 4301, introduced by Representative Young, a bill to amend an act to establish the status of minors. People of the State of Michigan enact.
The bill will be considered read for a second time by its title. Are there amendments? There are amendments. The clerk will read.
The Committee on Judiciary, Representative Breen Chair, recommends the adoption of Substitute H2.
The question before the House is the adoption of the substitute. The clerk will open the board. The substitute is adopted. Are there further amendments? There being no further amendments, the question before the House is advancing the bill to the order of third reading. Hearing no objection, the bill is on third reading. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Continuing order of second reading of bills will be count item number 73, House Bill 4302.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Calendar Number 73, House Bill 4302, introduced by Representative Andrews, a bill to amend the Michigan Penal Code. People of the State of Michigan enact.
The bill will be considered read for a second time by its title. Are there amendments? There are amendments. The clerk will read.
The Committee on Judiciary, Representative Breen Chair, recommends the adoption of Substitute H1.
The question before the House is the adoption of the substitute. The clerk will open the board. The substitute is adopted. Are there further amendments? There being no further amendments, the question before the House is advancing the bill to the order of third reading. Hearing no objection, the bill is on third reading. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Continuing order second reading of bills will be count item number 107, Senate Bill 66.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Calendar Item 107, Senate Bill 66, a bill to amend the revised school code. People of the State of Michigan enact.
The bill will be considered read for a second time by its title. Are there amendments? There being no amendments, the question before the House is advancing the bill to the order of third reading. Hearing no objection, the bill is on third reading. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Continuing order of second reading of bills will be count item 108, Senate Bill 67.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Calendar Item 108, Senate Bill 67, a bill to amend the Michigan Penal Code. People of the State of Michigan enact.
The bill will be considered read for a second time by its title. Are there amendments? There being no amendments, the question before the House is advancing the bill to the order of third reading. Hearing no objection, the bill is on third reading. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Continuing order of second reading of bills will be count item 109, Senate Bill 68.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Calendar Item 109, Senate Bill 68, a bill to amend the Code of Criminal Procedure. People of the State of Michigan enact.
The bill will be considered read for a second time by its title. Are there amendments? There being no amendments, the question before the House is advancing the bill to the order of third reading. Hearing no objection, the bill is on third reading. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Continuing order of second reading of bills will be count item number 101, Senate Bill 69.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Calendar Item 101, Senate Bill 69, a bill to amend the Public Health Code. People of the State of Michigan enact.
The bill will be considered read for a second time by its title. Are there amendments? There being no amendments, the question before the House is advancing the bill to the order of third reading. Hearing no objection, the bill is on third reading. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Continuing order of second reading of bills will be count item 102, Senate Bill 70.
Without Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Calendar number 102, Senate Bill 70, a bill to amend the Code of Criminal Procedure. People of the State of Michigan, enact.
The bill be considered read for a second time by its title. Are there amendments? There being no amendments, the question before the House is advancing the bill to the order of third reading. Hearing no objection, the bill is on third reading. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Continuing order of second reading bills may be counted item 103, Senate Bill 71.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Calendar item 103, Senate Bill 71, a bill to amend the Public Health Code. People of the State of Michigan, enact.
The bill be considered read for a second time by its title. Are there amendments? There are. The clerk will read.
The Committee on Health Policy, Representative Rogers, Chair, recommends the adoption of Substitute H1.
The question before the House is the adoption of the substitute. The clerk will open the board. The substitute is adopted. Are there further amendments? There being no further amendments, the question before the House is advancing the bill to the order of third reading. Hearing no objection, the bill is on third reading. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Continuing order of second reading bills may be Senate count item 104, Senate Bill 72.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Calendar item 104, Senate Bill 72, a bill to amend the Code of Criminal Procedure. People of the State of Michigan, enact.
The bill be considered read for a second time by its title. Are there amendments? There being no amendments, the question before the House is advancing the bill to the order of third reading. Hearing no objection, the bill is on third reading. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Continuing order of second reading bills may be counted item 110, Senate Bill 73.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Calendar item 110, Senate Bill 73, a bill to amend the Freedom of Information Act. People of the State of Michigan, enact.
The bill will be considered read for a second time by its title. Are there amendments? There being no amendments, the question before the House is the advancing the bill to the order of third reading. Hearing no objection, the bill is on third reading. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Continuing order of second reading bills may be counted item 120, Senate Bill 236.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Calendar item 120, Senate Bill 236, a bill to amend the Michigan Penal Code. People of the State of Michigan, enact.
The bill will be considered read for a second time by its title. Are there amendments? There being no amendments, the question before the House is advancing the bill to the order of third reading. Hearing no objection, the bill is on third reading. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to see the order of motions and resolutions and take up House Resolution 121.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
House Resolution number 121, introduced by Representative Mearman, a resolution declared June 15, 2023 as William DeHart Hubbard Day in the state of Michigan.
Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to pass for the day.
Without objection, so ordered. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's just you and me, but just let the members know there'll be no further voting when the House adjourned to stand adjourned until Wednesday, June 21st at 1:30 p.m.
All remaining members rejoice. Without objection, so ordered. The House will stand at ease at the call of the chair.
The House will come to order. House proceed to announcements by the Clerk of Printing and Enrollment.
Clerk announced that the following bills and joint resolution had been reproduced and made available electronically on Thursday, June 15th. House Bills 4762 through 4829 and House Joint Resolution F.
Reports of standing committees.
Committee on Criminal Justice, Representative Hope, Chair, reported House Bill 4520 without amendment with recommendation that the bill pass.
Bills referred to the order of second reading of bills.
Committee on Criminal Justice, Representative Hope, Chair, reported House Bill 4521 without amendment with recommendation that the bill pass.
Bills referred to the order of second reading of bills.
Committee on Regulatory Reform, Representative Tyrone Carter, Chair, reported Senate Bill 247 without amendment with recommendation that the bill pass.
Bills referred to the order of second reading of bills.
Committee on Transportation, Mobility, and Infrastructure, Representative Shannon, Chair, reported House Bill 4082 without amendment with recommendation that the bill pass.
Bills referred to the order of second reading of bills.
Committee on Transportation, Mobility, and Infrastructure, Representative Shannon, Chair, reported House Bill 4602 without amendment with recommendation that the bill pass.
Bills referred to the order of second reading of bills.
Committee on Transportation, Mobility, and Infrastructure, Representative Shannon, Chair, reported House Bill 4706 with recommendation that substitute H1 be adopted and that the bill then pass.
Bills referred to the order of second reading of bills.
Committee on Transportation, Mobility, and Infrastructure, Representative Shannon, Chair, reported Senate Bill 43 without amendment with recommendation that the bill pass.
Bills referred to the order of second reading of bills.
Committee on Elections, Representative Cernoglu, Chair, reported House Bill 4210 with recommendation that substitute H1 be adopted and that the bill then pass.
Bills referred to the order of second reading of bills.
Committee on Elections, Representative Cernoglu, Chair, reported House Bill 4755 without amendment with the recommendation that the bill pass.
Bills referred to the order of second reading of bills.
Committee on Elections, Representative Cernoglu, Chair, reported House Bill 4756 with recommendation that substitute H1 be adopted and that the bill then pass.
Bills referred to the order of second reading of bills.
Committee on Elections, Representative Cernoglu, Chair, reported Senate Bill 339 without amendment with recommendation that the bill pass.
Bills referred to the order of second reading of bills.
Committee on Elections, Representative Cernoglu, Chair, reported Senate Bill 367 without amendment with recommendation that the bill pass.
Bills referred to the order of second reading of bills.
Committee on Elections, Representative Cernoglu, Chair, reported House Bill 370 without amendment with recommendation that the bill pass.
Bills referred to the order of second reading of bills.
Committee on Elections, Representative Cernoglu, Chair, reported Senate Bill 371 without amendment with recommendation that the bill pass.
Bills referred to the order of second reading of bills.
Committee on Elections, Representative Cernoglu, Chair, reported Senate Bill 373 without amendment with recommendation that the bill pass.
Bills referred to the order of second reading of bills. House proceed to notices.
To the Clerk of the House from Representative Ayash, pursuant to Article 4, Section 16 of the Michigan Constitution and Rule 42, subsection 3, I hereby give notice that on the next legislative session day, I will move to discharge the Committee on Insurance and Financial Services from further consideration of Senate Bill 326. Committee on Agriculture will meet Wednesday, June 21st at 9 a.m. in room 327 of the House Office Building. Committee on Energy, Communications, and Technology will meet Wednesday, June 21st at 9 a.m. in room 519 of the House Office Building. Committee on Higher Education will meet Wednesday, June 21st at 10:30 a.m. in room 326 of the House Office Building. Committee on Judiciary will meet Wednesday, June 21st at 10:30 a.m. room 521 of the House Office Building. Committee on Local Government and Municipal Finance will meet Wednesday, June 21st at 12 p.m. in room 519 of the House Office Building. Committee on Tax Policy will meet Wednesday, June 21st at 12 p.m. in room 521 of the House Office Building. A revised agenda. Committee on Labor will meet Thursday, June 22nd at 9 a.m. room 326 of the House Office Building. Committee on Ethics and Oversight will meet Thursday, June 22nd at 10:30 a.m. in room 521 of the House Office Building. Committee on Health Policy will meet Thursday, June 22nd at 10:30 a.m. room 519 of the House Office Building.
Communications from state officers.
Received from the Secretary of State notices of filing of administrative rules. Filings 23-05-10 for the Department of State Police entitled Drunk Driving Equipment and Training Fund. 23-05-11 for the Department of State Police entitled Tests and Breath Alcohol. 23-05-12 for the Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy entitled Groundwater Quality Control. 23-06-01 for the Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs entitled Psychology General Rules. 23-06-02 for the Department of Natural Resources entitled Mackinac Island State Park Commission General Rules. 23-06-03 for the Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs entitled Adult Foster Care Family Homes. 23-06-04 for the Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs entitled Adult Foster Care Congregate Facilities. 23-06-05 for the Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs entitled Adult Foster Care Small Group Homes. 23-06-06 for the Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs entitled Adult Foster Care Large Group Homes. 23-06-07 for the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity entitled Ionizing Radiation Rules Governing the Use of Radiation Machines. And 23-06-08 for the Department of Health and Human Services entitled Foster Family Homes and Foster Family Group Homes.
Introduction of bills.
Representative Johnson offers House Bill 4830, bill to amend the Public Health Code. People of the State of Michigan enact.
Bill is considered read for first time by its title, referred to the Committee on Health Policy.
Representative Johnson offers House Bill 4831, a bill to prohibit financial institutions from using firearm codes under certain circumstances and to prescribe civil sanctions. The people of the State of Michigan enact.
Bill is considered read for first time by its title, referred to the Committee on Insurance and Financial Services. Announcements by the clerk.
Received from the Office of Children's Ombudsman, the 2022 Office of Children's Ombudsman Report.
There being no further business to come before the House, Representative Miller moves that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed will say nay. The motion prevails. The House will stand adjourned until Wednesday, June the 21st at 1:30 p.m.